What's up, guys? Welcome back to Seth Lee Fishing. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of river fishing. So right now we're on the Alabama River. I just launched at Holly Creek. It's a foggy morning out here, as you can see. So I'm just kind of idling out of the launch, trying to get to the river. I'm going to show you how I fish the Alabama River. It's a current system, you know. So I'll show you like the ins and outs kind of what I do and what I look for and how I catch the fish. We'll mainly be targeting spotted bass, but we'll probably catch a few largemouth here and there. But let's go catch some fish, see if we can get out of this fog. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys kind of my technique. So I'm up here at my first spot, and I don't know if you can see it through this fog up here or not, but there's a little jetty right here off the river. And like this current's coming down fast. Like I have my trolling motor turned all the way up and it's just rolling through here. That's a good thing. Like you want current. That helps you kind of find where the fish are at, you know, makes them easier to target because they're going to be behind things like this jetty, and like you know that's where they're going to be because they're waiting on bait fish and stuff to wash down with the current. So I like to start off with like a crankbait or a moving bait, and I'm just going to throw it. It wasn't a great cast. I just like to throw this crankbait up there and just run it down this jetty. And this jetty comes on out a ways under the water where you can't see it. So once I get this reeled in, if I don't have any bites, you know, after I throw it a couple times, throw it in a few different spots, then I'll switch to like a Carolina rig, a shaky head, Texas rig, something like that. Just kind of working on the bottom, see what I can do. So I'll throw this one more cast. And this is actually a pretty long jetty, so I'll fish it out back here at the end, you know, and that's usually where they're at. Just kind of where the current breaks off back here on the other end of this jetty. But if I don't get any bites out here, then I'll make my way up, you know, and get closer and just keep throwing up the jetty. So I didn't get any bites on the crankbait. I'll go with the shaky head for right now. I don't know if this one's gonna be big enough. This current's moving so fast, it might not get on the bottom. Probably gonna have to go with my Carolina rig because it's a little bit heavier. But yeah, that's basically what I'm doing on this spot, you know. Another thing to mention is you always want to check to see what the water's doing if you're fishing a river. So like right now, the Alabama River where I'm fishing, it's at 13 foot, which isn't like too high. It's about normal really, but there's a lot of water up the river, like further up, and so they keep dumping more water down here. So right now it's rising, and you should be able to check all this information for your river online. Like, you know, they have like hydrographs and stuff. So when the water's rising, normally that means the fish are gonna go up with the water, you know. They're gonna go like get shallower, and then as the water falls, they're gonna like go out a little bit deeper. So if the water was falling, I'd be fishing kind of more out here where these rocks come down and they're a little bit deeper. But I'm trying to get it right up against that jetty because I know since the water's rising, they should be a little bit closer to it. So they're gonna be right on them rocks. And like spots like this, I like to fish. Like on this jetty, you can see where this water's like breaking over the rocks here. And sometimes, you know, I like to throw over the top because sometimes those fish will get back behind that jetty and that slack water back there, and where it feeds over, the water's bringing in bait fish and stuff on the other side as it washes over. So I've caught a few fish doing that. But right now I'm just fishing with my Bass Thumb Baits Jabberjaw. Ooh, there was a bass just jumped up there. When I'm fishing with my bass thumb baits, Jabberjaw in a white color with a little white diesel minnow trailer, and I like to throw like a white chatterbait or a white spinnerbait down the jetties like this when I'm kind of fishing up like more shallower instead of fishing like the deeper part of the jetty. I've just had good luck on that. Another thing you could do is check your graphs. So I check my hummingbirds, or I've been checking my hummingbirds as I've been driving or cruising up this jetty, and I haven't seen many fish. You know, I mean, you're not gonna see all of them obviously, but as soon as we get to the end of this jetty, we're just gonna go to the next spot. There goes a blazer. One of the most important things is your presentation of your bait. So, you know, the current's coming down, right? So we want to make sure that we're throwing our bait up forward, like up into the current, and letting it come down with the current naturally, giving it that natural presentation, you know, making our bait looking like it's flowing with the current. You can have current with the water rising or current with the water falling, and it's going to be going the same direction down the river. But in a creek mouth, if the whole body of water is rising, then the water is going to be going into the creek mouth. But if it's falling, it's going to be going out of the creek mouth, but it's still going down the river either way. If the water is falling, I like to be outside of the creek mouth throwing up into it. If the water is rising, I like to actually go up in the creek mouth and fish back out towards the river. And I feel like you'll get way more bites actually fishing like the natural presentation. We're at the end of this jetty. Let's pack it up and head on to the next spot. Real quick, let me just kind of talk about what I look for map-wise, like when I'm trying to find a spot on the river. Really, I'm looking for points. I mean, that's mainly like current breaks. That's mainly what you're fishing out on the river. Like jetties, points, creek mouths, which is basically a point. They're all current breaks. You know, it can be under the water. The jetties obviously are sticking out of the water a little bit. You can see those, but the map, especially the Lake Master maps, they give you really good like detail of what's under the water. Sometimes like there's points and breaks that you can't see. Like I just found one right here. Let me see if I can screenshot this. I don't remember how to do it. All right, I just screenshotted it. Like I would have never noticed that if I was just fishing like normally, you know, if I wasn't looking on the map for that. All right, so we're here. We're about to fish a creek mouth up here, but I noticed something a little ways down from the creek mouth. This wall right here kind of sticks out a little bit, and kind of goes with what I was saying earlier with the maps. You know, like sometimes you notice stuff on the map that you don't notice from up here, but sometimes you notice stuff from up here that you don't notice on the map. So I'm gonna hit this real quick. All right, so I'm not getting any bites in the creek mouth. So since the water's rising like this, I'm gonna grab my spinnerbait right here, and I'm just gonna kind of go in this creek a little bit, because I've been seeing a few fish jump here and there, and see if maybe this rising water's kind of pushed them up, you know, into these trees and stuff back here in this creek. One thing I like about fishing a spinnerbait over a chatterbait style bait in this current is when the current's moving really fast like this and you can't really like reel your bait to make your blades move, the spinnerbait, like, you know, the blades still kind of twirl and spin, and the current, as long as you just kind of, oh, there he is. Oh no, I missed him. Dang, he smacked my spinnerbait. But like as long as you just kind of keep the line tight and let your spinnerbait just kind of go down with the current, those blades will still spin. And like tracked fish, whereas the chatterbait, it doesn't really vibrate because you're not pulling on the bait, making the blade vibrate. Man, it must have been a little one just tapping at it. Oh, there he is. I got him. Look at that. Oh, don't get my finger. Well, that's hooked. All right. Well, there we go. He's a little guy, but we got him. He was right there by that tree, just sitting in that root ball, waiting for stuff to swim by. Little guy, but at least it's a fish. All right, guys, so right here we're about to fish some more jetties. So I'm just gonna do kind of the same thing I did with the last jetty, you know. I'm just gonna hit it with the crankbait a few times, like throw some moving baits at it, you know, see if I can get the active fish, the aggressive fish biting, and maybe even turn on the school, you know. But if I can't catch any that way, then I'll go to like my shaky head, Texas rig, Carolina rig, you know, kind of fish the bottom, that deeper water column. And then if I don't get a bite doing any of those things, I'll take my spinnerbait and run up the back of the jetty and just see if I can cover some of that shallower water where the current's pushing into the jetties on the front side. Well, I just had one bite at my spinnerbait, grabbed it by the tail, but it just didn't get it all the way. I think it was a little guy. Alright, so I just had a bite right here. And what I'm doing is I'm fishing this jetty right here. And you always want to keep an eye out because a lot of times these jetties will be open in the back like this one is. And you can see that current's coming around the back too, the same way it is in the front. And so I'm just fishing just like I would on the other side. And there's a bite. Dang. They must just be little ones. They keep grabbing it and dropping it. But yeah, keep an eye out for them around the back of these jetties because they'll come back here. And like there'll be current moving through here if it's open. And those fish will just get back here and feed on those bait fish that are being pushed in by the current. There he is. Oh. Well, dang, he got my lizard. So at least we know there's a fish here. Let's spin around and see if we can't regroup and catch him. Oh yeah, one thing that's probably a little more common sense, but it's good advice if you've never done it before when you're fishing jetties, especially in current. You know, most of these jetties are rocks like this, you know, and this goes even for like riprap banks and current. You know, the current's gonna be pushing your bait into the rocks. It's gonna try to push it in the rocks. So like you're probably gonna have a lot of trouble, especially if it's your first time trying to keep it out of the rocks. And just a tip that I've found that really helps is to always keep your line tight. And as soon as you feel your bait hit a rock, you know, just kind of not hard, but just barely pull your rod tip up and bump it up, and that'll help bring your weight over those rocks instead of the current sucking it down in there. Because as soon as you give it slack, like the current, especially if it's fast current, it's just gonna suck it right into those rocks and you're probably gonna break it off. Yeah, just always try to keep your line tight so you can feel, first of all, because if you have a bite and you have slack in your line when it's coming through that current, you're not gonna feel the bite. So you want to make sure you always have your line tight so you can feel bites, and you can feel for the rocks and stuff under the water to make sure you don't get hung, and you can just kind of hop it over that stuff. Well, that right there is living life on the edge for sure. I don't know how much longer that one will be there. I'm about to fish this little point right here, and then that big metal wall over there. And then we're gonna start heading back because I'm getting hungry for lunch. Oh, there he is. Oh, stay down, baby. Oh, little largemouth again. Well, so quick little rundown with that is fishing this wall right here. This current's pushing up against this wall. I'm on the front side of it where the current's pushing up against it. And he was just up in between these little like ridges. And I'm sure it's pushing bait fish and stuff up in there, and the ridges are probably making little current breaks that he's sitting in. And just whenever some of that bait comes by, you know, he just comes out of that little ridge and grabs them, just like he did my worm. Another good tip when you're fishing, like out on river systems, current systems like this, is to look for boat landings. Fish boat landings. Now, obviously, like big, busy boat landings that are still in use probably aren't gonna have any fish on them because all the traffic disturbing the fish. But old abandoned boat launches like this right here, I mean, this is perfect. I've caught tons of fish on old abandoned boat launches like this, and like it just makes a point. That's all it does. And you know, it probably goes off in the water 10, 15 foot back here, and it's just a nice concrete point that gives you a nice current break for those fish to get behind and feed. So always keep that in mind when you're out looking for new spots. See if you can find an old boat launch, and you should have pretty good luck with it. Alright guys, well, that's about it for today. I'm about to take it home, go eat some lunch. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Hopefully I helped y'all out. You'll learn something about river fishing. Be sure to like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Comment down below how you fish river systems or current systems. If you do anything different than I do, let me know, because I'd love to hear from you. And thanks for watching, guys. Be safe out there. Bye.